7:30 in the evening on the 31st of May, UK time, 2020. Let's go. This is my global forecast from an astrological perspective for June 2020. Normally, when I look at a month ahead, I look at, how many planets are changing sign. And I would normally expect 3, 4, sometimes 5 planets, normally 4 at least, to be changing sign over the coming month or so. During June, only 2 planets are changing sign. So straight away, that tells me it's going to be a different month than normal. Now, you'd think with only 2 planets changing sign, but it'll be quiet. Forget it. Not going to happen. Let's deal with something first of all. As I speak, Jupiter and Pluto are retrograde in Capricorn. Saturn is retrograde in Aquarius, getting ready to move backwards into Capricorn, where he will be in just under 5 weeks from now. Venus is also retrograde at the moment in Gemini. Venus will be conjunct the Sun in a couple of days' time, for which more in a moment. 4 planets retrograde. So all of a sudden, from everything moving forward, sort of 5-6 weeks ago, now 4 planets are moving backwards. So what's the meaning of retrogrades? Well, when they're in a personal chart, the more retrogrades there are in a personal chart, the more potential you have to look at situations, internalize it, assess, evaluate, reassess, reevaluate, consider, and then pronounce or take actions, as opposed to people with no retrogrades in their chart who will then just take direct action and deal with the consequences after. Retrogrades give you the potential for reevaluation. When it's a global situation, it's a little bit different. When there's a lot of planets in the sky retrograde in a global situation, it kind of indicates that actions will happen that actually don't have that much impact on the final outcome. So what's going on at this time is not representative of what the end game will be. But bearing in mind what's going on in the world at the moment, it's not going to get any easier anytime soon, especially as with all these planets retrograde at the moment, then Mercury's going to go retrograde early morning UK time, 6 a.m. UK time on the 18th of June. And then Neptune's going to go retrograde at about 10 p.m. in the evening UK time on the evening of the 22nd of June. Then we enter a period of about nearly 2.5 days, 23rd, 24th, and a little bit each side of June, post solstice, where Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune and Pluto are all going to be retrograde. The only planets not going to be going retrograde will be Uranus and Mars, and they're both slowing down, getting ready to go retrograde. So what this tells me is that the closer we get to solstice at this time and the immediate period around it, the more headless chicken the world's going to become. This is amplified by the set of eclipses that we're heading into. There is a minor partial eclipse of the full moon on this coming Friday on the 5th of June at 8:14 p.m. UK time, so early in the morning Australia, Singapore time, on the 6th, and earlier in the day USA time, but nevertheless 8:14 p.m. UK time on the 5th of June. But also on the 5th of June, not exact, it actually becomes exact the day before, Venus in the sky will be retrograde conjuncting the Sun. So with Venus retrograde on the Sun and an eclipsed moon, partial eclipsed moon, it tells me that the more we get into the first 4 or 5 days of June, that tensions are going to rise. There's going to be a lack of empathy and compassion. There's going to be a lack of willingness to listen to anyone else. Other people's values, Venus, will not be taken into account. The eclipse moon will kind of won't have any discernment towards other people's feelings, and there'll be a philosophy of might makes right. After this, we get to that period where lots of planets will be retrograde, but just before that, on the 20th of June, on the 21st of June, there will be a almost total eclipse of the sun. This will be taking place at 0 degrees 20 of Cancer at 7:43 a.m. in the morning UK time on Sunday the 21st of June. This is a near total eclipse of the sun at the very start of Cancer. This is a very difficult position for a number of political leaders and a number of nation states. And as people all over the world come out of lockdown, many of them very frustrated by the fact that they've lost their jobs and they've been cooped up on their own, which doesn't do wonders for their mental health. A lot more empowered by how strong they've realised they are, because a lot of people, whilst they've been shut away, have been doing a great deal of work on themselves, and they're feeling ever more self-confident, self-acceptance, self-believing. So psychologically, I think the majority of humans are in a really good space. But the line between those who are and those who aren't is becoming ever more defined. Whichever way it is, whether it's people who feel disenchanted, disenfranchised, disempowered, or whether it's people who go, hey, I don't need to take this anymore. I'm much smarter than they think I am. One way or another, the more we get towards the 21st, the more people are going to be going, who are these people who think that they can tell me what to do whilst they're doing something completely different? I still remain pretty convinced that before the end of this coming month, Boris Johnson will not be Prime Minister of Britain. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I'm not wrong. I'm right more than I'm wrong. But this isn't all. Because although it's skipping a little bit ahead, at the very start of July, on the 5th of July, there's also another partial eclipse of the full moon, this time at 13 degrees of Capricorn, which is nowhere near Jupiter or Pluto or anything like that, but it's still enough to make me think that there's still further unrest coming. Unrest is a very provocative word, perhaps the word disquiet, individually and collectively. But even here, this isn't all. I said at the start of it that not many planets are changing sign, and they're not. The sun will change sign on the 20th at 10:45 in the evening on the 20th, Saturday the 20th of June. That is when that is the actual summer solstice in the northern hemisphere. That's 22:45, 10:45 in the evening UK time on the 20th of June. That is the summer solstice. The sun will move into Cancer. Shortly after that, on the 28th of June, Sunday the 28th of June, around about 2:45 a.m. in the morning UK time, Mars will move into Aries, where it will then stay until January of next year. This is a game changer. Mars moving into Aries for 6.5 months. This hasn't happened for a long time. Mars goes retrograde on average every 2 years. Multiply that by 12, 24 years for each sign of the zodiac. So on average, Mars goes retrograde in Aries once every 24 to 25 years. So it probably hasn't happened this century. I've not fact checked this. Problem is, when Mars goes retrograde in Aries, it's not only going to be just going retrograde in the sign where it's at its most active and dynamic, it's also going to be squaring Jupiter and Saturn and Pluto 3 times. And there are specific trigger points which I've repeated a number of times, but I will put them on the record here again. 3rd week of August. period around the 16th of October, last week of December, although by that time both Jupiter and Saturn would have moved into Aquarius, and that's a different energy. But that time around the middle of October and the third week of August is absolutely critical. It is the cutting edge of a razor blade. It is the sharpest time for many, many years, if not decades, that I've seen astrologically, and it's as if it's the tip of the iceberg, and we're approaching it now. We're getting there, and May has been a time where of people beginning to wake up and go, wait a minute, what's going on? We don't want to do this. We don't want to be like this. June is going to be, unfortunately, a fairly provocative month, and there's not going to be a great deal of ease. Long term, I have a great deal of hope. I really do. I think this is the necessary dive into the darkness before we emerge through the keyhole into an energy of much greater light. And I know that the future of the majority of humanity is going to be pretty damn good, and not too long either. 95% of those of us alive now will see this. But this year's going to get messy. Next year's not going to be that easy. After that, well, things change. Now, if I was to sit here and tell you, hey, it's all right, folks, June's going to be wonderful, you'd know I was lying. Other astrologers can do that. I'm a bit disappointed in a number of other astrologers. They're either buying into the fear, or they're getting into conspiracy theories, or they're channeling Canopus or Sirius or the Pleiades, which is just like, where's the astrologers when you need them? Mind you, there's a lot of young astrologers out there who are really learning fast. I'll be teaching sooner rather than later. Website's nearly ready to launch. June's not going to be easy, folks. Best thing is, lockdown's ending. We're all coming out. We're all resurfacing. But we kind of have a responsibility to ourselves to be assertive and projective. Yes, but not confrontational or aggressive. To deliberately choose not to let our buttons get pushed in the face of challenge, and to act as mature humans. Humans being, not human beings. Those of you who know me know my catchphrase is that negativity can't exist with its humour. But humour is going to be in relatively short supply unless you're a bit like me and got a fairly dark sense of humour. Nevertheless, if you possibly can, find the humour during June, particularly laugh at yourself, take the mickey out of yourself. People will say you're crazy. I would say you're one of the sanest people on the planet. I'll do my best to keep you all updated as best as I can. Catch you later, world. Bye.